You are listening to the USDN on the DFPN.
It's a trap!
What is up, everybody, and welcome to the United States Department of Nerds, where we are for the people, by the people, and of the people. But before we begin, the AHA Horror Anthology continues to grow. We're looking at episode number 6 tonight, and with each episode, we've explored new corners of horror, from psychological tension to body horror, to the unsettling realities that linger just beneath the surface. And tonight, we step into something darker, something older, something rooted in fear, faith, and the consequences of faith, of false justice. Blech. The forest is quiet, too quiet, the kind of silence that comes after a lie has been told, after justice has been twisted into something unrecognizable. A rope swings in the night air, a name is whispered in fear, and somewhere beyond the gallows, something is waiting. Tonight, we step into a Puritan nightmare where truth was buried and vengeance has to dig its way back up. Ladies and gentlemen, the Council of Nerds is now in session. Jasmine, welcome to the USDN, my friend.
It's very honored. I'm very honored to be here.
I hope the intro was to your liking.
Oh, absolutely. I was like headbanging all the way through it. It was great. Yeah. My compliments to your graphics. You know, really awesome
Appreciate
stuff.
it.
Yeah.
Kelvin would love to hear that. He loves when his work is noticed, and he appreciates it. But let's dive into it. What drew you specifically to a Gothic supernatural horror?
Oh man, that's a good question. Well, one of my, really all types of horror fascinate me because I think horror really speaks to, what it means to be human, and especially in history as well, because there's a lot of historical elements of horror that both ring in that time period, but also still now. I took a Gothic horror class actually when I was doing my, graduate years at my university. Yeah. And a lot of Gothic horror focused on themes that are still relevant today, like persecution of otherness, of, fear of the unknown, of marginalized peoples, essentially. Yeah. And with Gothic horror, too, I think that there is a huge cry for that because we're really seeing a lot of returns to these classic themes. Absolutely. Like there's so many horror films that have delved into this time period. One of my favorite directors, are you familiar with Robert Eggers? I think he did The Witch.
I think everybody is.
Oh yeah, he's great. He did an incredible film about the Puritan times and the fear that dominated that. And what really struck me is that even though it was a very old-timey kind of film where language was very antiquated, it was very religious in terms of theme, there's still a lot of sense of horror that still resonated with people in terms of this dissolving family unit and this idea of this culture kind of turning against them. So that was something that really intrigued me when I wrote the Hangwoman for this comic as well, because I kind of wanted to touch upon what made the Salem witch trials fascinating and still relevant today. Yeah.
Oh, and the Coven is coming back in American Horror Story as well. So
really, that's great.
Which I'm really excited about. That was one of my favorite seasons of that series. Was the Coven, and it's coming back around, and I'm here for it. I haven't watched it in about 3 or 4 seasons, so I'm definitely going to be jumping back in simply because they brought the witches back, and I love that. So
That's amazing.
So was there a specific image or a moment, maybe an emotion that sparked this story, and why a Puritan-era setting?
Emotion. Sorry, could you clarify by emotion? You mean like anger or sadness, or did I mishear?
Just no, you thought about it way too hard.
Oh, sorry.
Was there no? You're good.
That
Like a specific image, a moment, or an emotion that kind of sparked this story for you?
Well, I already mentioned The Witch, but also when I was again in university, we actually did some readings on the Salem witch trials. One was by I think a testimony of a woman who's, unfortunately, I don't quite remember her name. I think it was Mary. I'll have to look into this more. But another was another element was The Crucible, a very famous play that I actually was not assigned to read, but I read because I was very curious about that.
Mm-hmm.
And one of the reasons why The Crucible is still talked about is because, it was written to basically, it was written about the Cold War, when everybody was pointing at everybody, calling each other a communist because of this paranoia. What really interests me is that we still see witch trials reemerging. We still, in a lot of societies, still have people, pointing the finger during moments of great paranoia, because they're afraid. I don't think we need to get too heavy into details, but I think witch trials are not unique to a specific era in human history. They're a huge facet of mob mentality. And and so I think with the Hangwoman, I really wanted to kind of try and examine sort of what happens if somebody rises back, because a lot of the people who were persecuted in witch trials were women, and a lot of them didn't really have their voices being told, save for that one testament, which I was really affected by. And I thought that having a Gothic horror story about a woman rising from the grave to reclaim that would be kind of an interesting take on that for sure. Sorry.
No, go. I'm sorry. I was breathing. I do apologize.
No, I'm sorry. I just want to make sure. Another aspect that kind of inspired me was, this is going to sound kind of silly, but there was this Scooby-Doo film about, I think the witch's ghost when I was a kid, and that was kind of my first introduction to not only the Salem witch trials, but also Wiccanism and how people of different faiths were persecuted, which was another thing that really inspired me, especially seeing what's going on in these days and all throughout history as well. So it's
a perfectly good explanation, and I'm a huge Scooby-Doo fan, so I love that. I love that reference. Little Scooby-Doo on Zombie Island action there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Great stuff. But yeah, I think it's I was kind of disappointed because they portrayed this witch as this innocent victim at the beginning who was executed because she practiced Wiccanism. But then immediately was she was actually an evil witch this whole time, who was it was kind of the twist where it's I think the Wiccans actually sealed the witch away. I thought maybe I could play around with that, where it's what if this was a perfectly good pagan healer who just wanted to help people, and she ended up sadly paying the price for it in an intolerant time. Castlevania was another influence as well with that character in the TV series.
Oh, that's a good one. That was such a good series too.
Oh,
so
yeah.
The story feels really deeply rooted in false justice and abuse of power. Was that intentional from the start, or when you started writing this, that just kind of evolved itself?
I think it absolutely was intentional, because the Salem witch trials at its core was based off an abuse of power. A lot of witches that were convicted, it originally started as it went from, we have these people who we suspect of being witchcraft, to immediately becoming, I don't like that lady because she doesn't say her prayers, or I think that man owes me money, or, just a bunch of different facets and grudges that people basically anybody who was an other in society, anybody who didn't quite fit in, was immediately accused of witchcraft. And even people who did fit in were accused of witchcraft. So I think it actually ended the Salem witch trials, and I think one of the judge's wives was accused of witchcraft, and immediately he's like, okay, that's it. We're putting an end to this. It wasn't until they were affected.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I read, so it was a book about history, but it was, they explained certain events through history with the use of science. And it was brought up with the Salem witch trials that it could have been bad yeast that they were using to bake breads that were causing people to hallucinate, which led to them believing these were witches because they were hallucinating these people doing evil things because of the time, with everybody being strictly religious there. If they were hallucinating it because they were eating bad yeast, they were like, oh, she just did this. I seen her fly. So I always thought that was a really cool concept of a book where it was just weird things in history that they tried to explain through the use of science. So I don't remember the name of the book, but it was just a really cool read that I found on a shelf in some obscure bookstore somewhere, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, that sounds really interesting. In fact, I think it was actually referenced in Robert Eggers' The Witch, where I think like the family was holding a corn because their harvest was going bad, and the corn is just like covered in black, bleh,
Yeah.
And apparently, when I was researching into the film, because I was really gripped by its accuracy and I wanted to learn more about it. That's apparently a kind of rot called ergot, I think it's called, and that also causes hallucinations. So there was a whole theory about the film, whether the family was actually going insane or if there was supernatural occurrences or if it was just bad corn. Exactly what you were saying.
Yeah, and it's really cool to explore those concepts, even in the tragedy of those events that actually happened. It's kind of neat to take a step back and go, can we explain this through science as well? And that's fun to me because it's different.
Yeah.
But so the judge in this story profits from Elizabeth's death. How important was it to show the corruption behind the moral authority of the story?
I felt it was rather important to portray it because I think now more than ever we're aware of the corruption of authority and people in power. And that, again, it is a facet in history, true. I can't directly name references of people accepting bribes back then. Maybe they did, maybe they didn't. I don't necessarily have the sources to back that up. In fact, I should research into that more. But I do know that people with authority use the witch trials as a way to essentially control the masses. Go to church, be obedient, don't step out of line. And one of the reasons why the witch trials was also so horrifying was because a lot of people, even like people who were usually expected to be seen and not heard, like women, suddenly had all this power. Like, they were pointing all these very people being like, she's a witch. Listen to me, she's a witch.
Yeah.
And that was a big thing. But of course, with this story, it was more about religious persecution and a persecution of a person outside of their society, which is definitely something that leaders are throughout history and now have incorporated as scapegoats and also for fear. There's actually a history of monsters course that I took a while back, which has been incredibly influential, which directly talks about how monsters are made to represent that which a society fears, that which they can't control, which you cannot control, you demonize, and you make sure that everybody and shuns it. Yeah.
So who do you see as the real villain in this story? The judge, the system, or the people that allowed this persecution to happen?
Oh, I love questions like these. It's, I think it's kind of like, I guess it's sort of like a snake eating its own tail, something that'll just keep continuing, corrupt systems will corrupt people and corrupt people will corrupt the systems. I think I'm probably leaning a little bit more towards the authoritative figures, because I think these are the types of people who have the power to end the system, but don't, because it's either suits them too well or they're indoctrinated in it. But I can definitely see how somebody, who is how a bunch of people would be completely behind the judge's authority, not just because he says so, but because they truly believe this person is guilty and that they want them gone. Yeah.
I like that answer. And I ask questions like that, and people are like, ooh. I'm like, come on. You're coming on a good podcast. You go on the good podcast, you get good questions like that.
Oh, yeah. I didn't doubt that for a second. I was just happy,
No, I love that enthusiasm you had with it. So the imagery here is strong. We have crows, the moonlight, the gallows tree. How did you build that visual?
That's another good one. I really, those are just great visuals to have in a Gothic horror setting. Immediately you get a sense of like, well, when I write a story, I want the art to really transport the person reading it. I want them to feel the wind chilling their back. I want them to hear the crows cawing in the trees that are rustling overhead, and the moonlight shining over them. It's an eerie sight. But also it kind of, I think, conveys the setting. It's of course it's at nighttime. Back then, especially, they were very superstitious around the night, so already it was very dark. The trees symbolize that it's autumn and winter, so things are just going to get worse for these people because there's more dangers and more hazards, and of course with all these witches that they're hanging, it's not going to get easier for them either. And I think also with the crows, well, crows to me are a very interesting symbol because they are carrion birds. First of all, they literally eat the dead, but they're also symbols of memory. Of thought and memory, which I felt was very relevant in the story. In Norse mythology, Odin has two ravens, Hugin and Munin, who serve to collect memories. Crows themselves are very intelligent birds. They never forget. Yep. And there's even like stories that I've heard of crows literally attacking people who
wronged them. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And also another motivation was the comic The Crow, which was about grief.
One of my favorites.
Yeah, it's a very personal comic, and it's a very raw comic, but The Crow serves as that link between the physical and the metaphysical, which is definitely...
I actually have that autographed by the author, so...
Really?
Yeah.
That's so cool.
The opportunity came up about a year and a half ago, and I couldn't pass that one up, so I sent my book to be signed and came back. It was really cool.
Absolutely. Post that.
I wish I could have got the... yeah, I'll have to... Somewhere.
Yeah.
I'll dig it out. I have to dig it out and take a picture of it. Because I also got the Funko Pop signed by the guy who did the Crow in the third one.
Oh,
the second one.
Movie?
Yeah. Can't remember his name. He was also in John Wick.
Was it City of Angels or Salvation?
I think it was City of Angels, if I'm not mistaken. It was one of the two. Whichever one had, I wish I could remember his name, but I just know he was in The Crow. He was in the John Wick movie. His name will pop up in my head later. It'll be 10:30 at night, and it'll dawn in my head. I'm like, oh yeah, this guy.
Gotcha. I have seen the second film. It actually has a really interesting history. If you look up the behind the elements of it, it had a completely different story. Hopefully it gets released. Maybe what's their name? Shout Studios can get the rights to it and restore it to how.
Here's a cool one for you: a mint 9.8 CGC of The Crow #1, the comic book, will run you between $1,200 and $1,500 US.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Kind of wild.
Yeah, that is insane. That's great though. It
wasn't mass reproduced, so it's very hard to get your hands on. And I've actually only ever seen one of them.
Definitely.
And I've never seen it raw or just floppy. I've never seen it that way. I've only ever seen it slabbed. So
it's crazy.
So it's really cool. But that was I'm glad you brought that one up. So how do you approach writing horror that feels unsettling rather than just shocking? Because a lot of the stories are very shocking, but they're told with, like with Minaj and Squids, they put in like hours and hours of research into what they wanted to bring into the story Did you do this? Well, I already know you did the same thing, but like, how did you like kind of approach that with like this isn't necessarily unsettling, but rather it's more rooted in real life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, I've totally seen evil witch ghosts pop up from time to time. Sorry, just thought that was funny. But yeah, I totally agree with what you're saying. Yeah, like with rank horror, that's unsettling. Well, I didn't know what my peers were doing for AHA. We just kind of submitted stories and they picked some which fit, and I was very fortunate to get chosen. But to me, I think horror is best when it deals with real life themes. I mean, all stories like deal with real life themes, of course, but I think with horror, it's very easy to just throw some like gruesome image on the screen and get a reaction. But with horror, you need to address what's scary. It's not just a matter of oh, it's a fanged monster. It's a matter of like a specific theme, a specific idea that centers around social anxieties that still unsettle people. Like I'm trying to think of a good one. Maybe Hereditary. Hereditary is a very unsettling horror film. That's
it was.
And it had very gruesome images. A girl gets decapitated like on the road, and of course, but at the core of it is seeing a family completely destroy themselves in grief through domestic horror. That is unsettling.
Yeah.
And with the witch trials too, it's very much we definitely, people getting hanged is scary, but it's the idea that it could happen to you. It could happen to anybody for no reason other than they just don't like you. That is essential. That is very terrifying. And I think that with this comic too, I think with so many people being persecuted and rounded up and put away for no good reason other than they just don't like you, I think that is essentially a very unsettling moment that I wanted to bring awareness to through this horror. Yeah.
Let's dive in a little bit and talk about Elizabeth. And so her transformation into a vengeful spirit is powerful. How did you approach that shift?
You mean the shift between her being like a healing woman to a vengeful spirit?
Yes.
Well, as you can probably tell, I'm a big fan of ghost stories. And I have researched a lot of different stories involving a lot of ghost stories often center around women. Women coming back from the grave because they were killed by their lover, or their child died or was thrown out, or they they were basically discarded by society, and they rise up and they haunt people. There are countless examples. In Mexico, there was I'm going to butcher this pronunciation. I'm so sorry to anybody listening who is Spanish. La Llorona, which is about a woman who basically haunts like the rivers and goes after children because she was
one of my favorite ghost stories.
Yeah, exactly. You know what I'm talking about. Abandoned by her husband, and her children died. And there's several more like that, all across areas. But with this ghost story, I wanted to focus on a woman whose life was destroyed through the witch trials, because of course that happens. But more than that, I think with her coming back as a vengeful spirit, I didn't want it just to be like, she completely turns a 180 from a nice person to killing everybody. This is a woman looking for justice, to get back at somebody who took her away, and would probably do the same to several other people. Another big influence that I have with Diana's character is, are you familiar with the Song of Ice and Fire books, the ones that inspired the Game of Thrones series? Yeah. Do you know about Lady Stoneheart?
Still waiting for him to do the last book.
Yeah.
Along with everybody else.
Absolutely.
But yes, I'm very familiar.
Yeah, well, with Lady Stoneheart, what made her really interesting as a ghost isn't just that she was brought back from the dead to kill a bunch of people. It was people that hurt her personally and hurt her family. So that's her own form of justice, because sadly, she's not going to get justice, not just because she's dead, but because, who would give her justice in this kind of world? So she goes those different means. Yeah, I guess empowerment to witches. Definitely.
There we go. I like it because I mean those are some of my favorite stories, and I
Mhm.
think I can't remember who it was. The guy, one of the guys that was on at the beginning of this month. I don't want to mess up his name, so let me just here real quick. Zach, when he was on, he had brought up something, and I was like, "Oh, that sounds just like Grimm." And a lot of these stories that you were just talking about, you can find a version of that story within one of the seasons of Grimm. And oh no, a lot of these stories like this, I can immediately go, "Oh, that was an episode of Grimm one time, and it was a really good episode." So
Yeah.
my head always goes to Grimm for some reason because it wasn't that long ago that I rewatched the entire series again. So I don't know. I'm a big fan of Grimm, and I hear it's making a comeback.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely do want to watch that series. I've heard some amazing things.
It's really good. The finale, but it was really good up into the finale. So
that's fair.
Did you want your audience to fear Elizabeth, or do you want your audience to kind of root for her because I mean, for me, I'm rooting for her. I know that for a fact. But like, what did you want them to take away from that?
I think I kind of wanted to. I mean, of course, she is a person to be feared. You know, she's this undead wraith coming out, but she's not necessarily going to hurt anyone else. Just the people who targeted her. That's why at the end, she doesn't attack the guy she helped. She just asked her, "Okay, who else do you want me to come and bring over that's hurting others?" That's what the thing is. But also, I think one of the reasons why I brought up a lot of women in ghost stories is because, like I said, with people being persecuted, is that a lot of times in these ghost stories, they're meant to be people or figures that are, not good. They're meant to be these people who, even though they have sympathetic motivation, they're still very dangerous. They're still throwing random kids into a river. They're still haunting houses and making pots and pans moves and yeah, they're not nice. So I think with her, it's like you definitely do root for her, but it's not so much that you fear her for what she could do to you if she existed, but more like you kind of fear. It's more like awe-inspiring power, I guess. Yeah.
Have you crossed her? That's the one thing that you would think about. Like, wait, did I just see a ghost, and have I pissed off anybody who may be a ghost now?
Have I ever done that? When I was younger, definitely. I think even now, sometimes, like when I hear about when I read about history of any kind, I always kind of treat it with certain kind of gravitas. To this day, I still don't touch things like Ouija boards or anything that's like haunted dolls or anything like that. You never know, right?
Exactly. That's why I just like, I'll keep on walking. But the Cattle Knot, thank you for stopping through, man.
Hey,
or her, or I don't know. Sorry.
But yeah, I think but also with like with ghosts and I mean with Ouija board, I mean if I'm cranky just waking up in the morning, imagine how ghosts would be waking up after like 500 years,
I know, something to think about, like, why are you waking me up? Like, dude, I was sleeping good.
Absolutely. Furthermore,
but oh no, go ahead.
Sorry, I think when I was younger too, actually, me and my sisters, it's kind of a funny story. We were once walking our dogs in like the dead of night. Well, not the dead of night. It was like very early morning where it was still pretty dark. But and we actually thought we saw Slender Man like in the distance watching us, like some tall.
It's crazy how those trees will look. And hey, what's his name? Nick Cage is coming back as the Slender Man in the new movie.
Ooh, nice. That's great.
Yeah, I just seen that recently, and but it's kind of crazy how I don't know what it is. It's that time between 3 a.m. and like 5:30 a.m. To me, is creepier than any of the other times.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't know why, but it just is. So, is Elizabeth getting her revenge, or is her revenge justice, or something more sinister or darker?
I think that's up for the reader. I mean, I don't know. I think that when you phrase it like that, I feel bad for answering something like that because I think it's more interesting to have the reader
Fair enough.
That being said, though, when I pictured him like saying, "Who else do you want me to bring?" I didn't think it was him bringing a bunch of random people that had no connection to her whatsoever. I pictured it as him more bringing over people who were involved with her witch trials or who were malevolent. But by all means, if people want to take this idea, like the story, further and create their own versions, I'd love to see that. I think it'd be pretty interesting.
No, I like that answer because I do like when, like, I do a lot of these interviews, and even Minaj and Squids were like, we just kind of want people to make their own minds up about these parts of the story, and that's a fair response, and I respect that.
Yeah,
but
definitely. I think the reader will respect the writer more when the writer isn't just holding their hand and spoon feeding them what they want them to. Yeah.
I've met some people where you would still have to spoon feed them.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. So what was the most important moment for you in her return?
You mean like in how she like comes back, or I think really it was the reaction of the judge. You know, I think that was something that I really wanted to bring out. I haven't seen Matt's art yet for the witch coming back and how the judge is going to look, but I imagine it's going to look great because a lot of Matt's art is great. But I really want it to be like kind of this complete moment of shock and despair when he realizes that, her returning means that he's pretty much sealed his own fate. You know, he can't just push around people's lives for his own gain and expect him to just continue lingering on, especially because back in those days, even if you weren't religious, or even if you didn't believe in it, or even if you're hypocritical, it was still everywhere. You still works. Yeah, it was still a fundamental aspect of your society, even if, whether you quoted it or not. And a judge, I think, especially would be very much aware of the Bible, given how education back then, for such a high figure of justice, would have had that hammered into his head. Yeah,
I mean, it would have been in his studies, would be, from the Bible.
Exactly.
So when she asked who should be judged next, what does that mean for this world?
I think it means there's going to be a lot more ropes. I think what I mean is, well, with witch hangings, it's never a one-person job. You always have a committee of people being like, hey, I think she's guilty, and she pleads her innocence, even if they make completely compelling arguments, which a lot of people back then did, because a lot of people were literally making up random things that couldn't possibly happen. I think there's even a moment in the Crucible, if I remember correctly, where a guy saw a man come through a window, like fly through a window, and he was like, I can't walk. How can I fly through a window? And they were like, well, it could have been your spirit projecting, and that's when it all gets crazy.
They had some wild ass imaginations in those days. I'll tell you that.
Exactly. I mean, like if they were hallucinating, they must have been just completely like going out of their minds. They
had that good peyote back in those days.
Absolutely, yeah. The good old days, right?
Exactly. You remember them. You were there. But I want to dive into the woodsman next. Can we dive into the woodsman?
Yeah, of course. Dive into whatever you want.
So he's fascinating. He feels more than just a guide. Who is he really? He's not just an accomplice. He's not just a believer. Yeah. He feels something else entirely. Can you explore that with this, or is that another one of those where you kind of just want to leave it up to the reader to figure out or to make their own assumptions?
I don't want to sound like I'm cheating here, but to me, it's a bit of both. I will say I kind of drew this a little bit on my own somewhat personal experience, where I actually did meet someone who was a Wiccan when I was a kid, I had some this kind of rather religious aunt who was very much ingrained the Bible a lot in my childhood, through showing me Bible movies and stuff like that. And so by the time I met this Wiccan, of course, I mainly grew up and met more people. But a lot of how people portray witches is very much like modern day witches practice witchcraft. It's almost like Satanists or something like that in films. But when I met this person, she was completely lovely. She had this she was very helpful, she was very kind, she's very sweet. And again, I don't want to sound like I was making like the sign of the cross or anything like that. But when I heard that she was doing witchcraft, it's like, oh wow, really? What for? It's just kind of like
it's wild that you said that, right? Because I've met Wiccans, I've met pagans, I've met people who practice voodoo, and they were all some of the nicest and friendliest people I have ever met in my life. They would literally, if you were hungry, they would feed you. If you needed clothes, they would clothe you. If you needed shelter, they would give you shelter. It was just the type of people they were. So there's that. And I've had the opportunity to meet a lot of different people from a lot of different walks of life. And those were some of the best people I ever had the chance to meet.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, that middle school experience really got me interested in studying this stuff. I've always been fascinated with religions for as long as I can remember, but but I was always up until that experience, because again, I was very young, and a lot of what people were telling me about different religions is that they perform curses on people, and I guess I was kind of thinking at that age, if I piss them off, they will curse me, which is stupid. Yeah. Oh, it's that's unfortunately kind of how.
So I grew up in the Bible Belt, so for me it was a lot of Bible thumping and a lot of that kind of stuff. You go to church, you pray, you take your vitamins, you do the Hulk Hogan thing, right? You take your vitamins, say your prayers. And I remember being in my senior year of high school, and we had to write a book report for one of our classes. And at the time, the teacher had done something, and I just did not like it. So I'm and she was very God's watching you. So I'm like, what can I do that would just piss her off without getting me into too much shit? So I'm like, I'm going to write a book report on witchcraft and paganism. And that's what I did. And we had to present this to the class. So I presented that to the class, and the whole time she was just sitting there side-eyeing the hell out of me. And I went and sit down, and I just felt like I had this big shit-eating grin on my face, just got him.
I really do think that's great. Not just because you got back at her, but also, I don't know, I like to think that, obviously, you should, of course, respect people's beliefs, but I think at the same time, what's really important for everybody, regardless of beliefs, is to learn about others' beliefs. It doesn't matter 100%. If you agree with them, it doesn't matter if you, don't want to practice the same as them. But I think if you have that kind of awareness, ironically, you will feel less fear than you did before. And I think that's what's great about horror in terms of that. And with that man, I think that kind of went the woodcutter. I think that really kind of, I kind of remember thinking about that experience when I was writing him. This is a guy who wants to help this pagan woman who he describes as a healer. And so that in this town that saw that as a negative. So he remains very calm all the way until the very end. Was that intentionally done on your behalf? Or is that kind of as you were going, as you're writing what you feel like he what he represents? Is that something that you wanted to kind of hammer home, is that he's just this very calm individual in the face of this vengeful spirit? I think that definitely works well, because he knows her. He knows that she's not going to hurt him. They have this kind of partnership going on. But also, I think there's kind of I think you can feel very calm when you're very righteously angry, kind of this stone expression when you're leading this guy into the woods, and he's just you're going to get what's coming to you. But on the inside, like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So do you think he represents justice, or something maybe a little bit more dangerous?
Something dangerous? It's an interesting one. I think, with justice, honestly, it's a word that a lot of people have different interpretations for. I think he represents, he's an aid, he's helping her. she's still on the back skirts of society. I mean, not like in both life and death, but he's the helping hand that allows her as a marginalized person outside of this system in society, who was condemned by that system in society, get justice. And there are people like that. There are people who hear about the experiences that others have, and they feel compelled to help. And I think that's a very powerful thing. I think that's what justice is. It's people helping each other have their voices be told, which I think is big.
And I like this idea of the woodsman. He almost feels like death leading people to their death. You know what I'm saying? Like he's the reaper of their soul, taking them to be reaped. And that's kind of like the vibe I feel from him. And there's been other, entities throughout history or in stories that lead people to their demise. So that's the vibe I got from him and how I feel when I read the synopsis of the story.
Yeah.
So, but let's talk a little bit about writing horror.
Yes.
So what makes horror meaningful instead of just violent? Like you have to find balances there and you have to pick themes and, so how do you balance that, like with the atmosphere and the themes to get that ultimate payoff?
How do I balance the themes and energy and imagery to get a payoff? That's great. I think for one thing, it's all about knowing your audience. That's a big thing because a lot of people, they're not just scared of different things. They also want to experience different things, like you don't have a slow psychological drama in a monster film. I mean, you can, but most people want to see the monster. I guess like now I think that was a bad example. What I'm trying to say is you want to be able to deliver on the premise that you have. If you have a horror film without a monster, it could still be good, but you can't market it as a monster film.
Yeah, but no, I've seen some horror movies where you never really see the monster. And it's not just the jump scares that get you, it's the aftermath. And some of those are some of the scariest movies I've seen.
Yeah, that's true. I don't mean, I meant more like, I was using it as an example, is like at some point, at least, or have a monster involved, whether it can be like a representation of a person or even something that's hunting you. Like the Babadook, for example, I think is a great example of a monster. That the monster might not even be real. She might just be nuts, but it still explores how this tangible thing is still present. But as for themes and the imagery, like I'm just trying to think. I think
take your time.
Yeah, I'm just trying to because that's a really great question. I just want to make sure I answer it well. I think with creating horror, it's kind of like you need to have a scary idea, but you also need to have like bring it out through some powerful imagery. I mentioned Hereditary, about how yes, it is about this family that's destroying themselves, but they're destroying themselves through cults, through physical bodily harm, through them yelling and screaming at each other. Basically, that's horrific imagery that's associated with fear and danger and stuff outside your control. Jaws, that's another theme that has a lot of similar.
It's a really good one.
Exactly. It has a lot of really interesting themes about corruption and that's a big horror of the film. It's not just this the unpredictability of nature, but that incompetent people won't do anything to stop it. So that's also an element that goes in the film. And with this, I think through the theme of a witch hunt of corrupt officials targeting people in a system that thrives on people being targeted. I think that also carries over with the imagery of not just this other like forest where creatures are lurking and they're literally outside their own house, like they're literally stepping into it, which is definitely a horrifying theme. But also I think having a gross image of a ghost and a wraith definitely helps bring up the scares more as well, because it's something that is visually unpleasant and frightening, but it's also the meaning of which that makes it so. This is not just a scary looking woman. This is a woman who is fighting back against the people who made her that way. Did that answer your question? I hope I.
No, you did, and that's a great answer. So, do you
Thanks.
have any advice for creators trying to write Gothic or supernatural horror?
Oh, that's also great. I think a big thing is to research and to dive into your influences. Because I think once you have a specific idea of what you want to write, looking up different themes and influences definitely helps as well. There's so many great horror out there, but also really ask yourself, what scares you? What kind of message do I want to bring through horror that reaches people? Because to me, horror isn't just about scaring people. It's about making people confront their own fears, like internally and also externally. There's this great quote from Terry Pratchett. This is about fantasy, but I think it also rings true about horror. People need fantasy to be human because it allows you to explore, like people need fantasy to be human, but also horror. You need horror to be human because it allows you to explore the uncomfortable in a way that you can discuss and think about. I mean, there's also fun horror that's just, pulp, and that's great. But true horror, to me, that still stands the test of time, focuses on human themes. And there's so many you can focus on. You can focus on nature, on domestic horror, on discrimination, on the fear of the unknown is a very big one. So my advice is just look at what's going on in the world around you and what scares you, and how can you bring that out through that. Yeah.
Some good advice I got was be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Exactly. That's very much. I mean, if you are writing horror and you don't feel scared by what you're writing, you're not doing it right.
Exactly. You should feel the chills up your spine as you write the words.
Absolutely. You should be unable to write the words because your hands are shaking so much you can't touch the keyboard.
Is that what was happening earlier when I first brought you in? Because all I heard was.
No, I was sorry about that. I was mainly.
I'm just giving you a hard time because you had the hands up, so I was like, oh, that's what was going on earlier. Oh. But let's talk about your anthology experience with Chris and Chris. So you submitted your story. Was it this specific story, or was it the idea of this story that you had submitted to possibly get a chance to, submit your story for AHA?
Actually, it was a bit of both, because I had the script done prior for another anthology that unfortunately I wasn't able to make it in. I think it was because I didn't have an artist. I'm not entirely sure. Either way, I didn't make it in. So I had a few horror scripts from horror short stories, and when I heard about this anthology, I thought it sounded like a great idea. I wanted to make some more creators. Of course, I'm always down for the opportunity. So I submitted the pitch of this story because I felt that it stood strongly. I didn't know what other people were writing. I just kind of took a guess that having a historical horror story was a bit different than what other people were writing. And fortunately, I was right.
And absolutely were. There's a period piece, I think, that takes place before this one, because it includes knights and stuff like that.
Oh, nice. Yeah. That was also written by the cat or not, which we just saw here, I think. If you're still watching again.
yeah, it is. Actually, yeah, that's where I knew his name from. Yeah, it is his.
Yeah, I'm sure it's a perfect story. Sorry. Don't boo me off. All right. That's well, that's cute. Yeah, that's nice.
That's my bum. That's the old man. That's what I call him. He's my old man.
Yeah, when I saw you reaching for the camera, I was joking, and I was like, "Oh, is he actually gonna boo me off for that?"
No.
Yeah.
As much as I make bad jokes, I would never boot anybody off for the same. When Stephen Honeycutt was on, it was like an hour and 40 minutes of us doing bad jokes, basically. So I feel bad. Go watch the show. It was a lot of great stuff in there. We talked about his finale of his story. Nice. But there's a lot of really bad jokes in there. A lot of them. You put two 40-year-old men together, we're going to crack dad jokes, okay?
Nice. I actually, one of my bosses actually asked me if I became a dad recently because I was making so many dad jokes. Yeah. Yeah.
Hey, that means you're doing it right, okay?
Yeah. I mean, I certainly don't, I don't think I've become a father at any point, but I'm glad that I'm upholding the pride of the dad jokes.
Hey,
Yeah.
that's a shirt. You should get a t-shirt, Pride of the Dads.
Yeah.
Pride of the Dad jokes.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we'll get that made somehow. Maybe we can sell it alongside the anthology. Because
There we go.
I think too, with this anthology, so I had the script ready, but I did the pitch. So fortunately, because I had the script already done, I basically just gave it to Matt and was like, if there's anything you don't like, let me know. And he's like, no, I like it. It's I feel like I'm watching a movie as I read it. And I was like, so for most of the time while everybody was writing their scripts, I was kind of just floating around being like, hey guys, how's the writing going? Yeah. Oh, my script's going well.
Yeah. So, and that was what's been great about this whole experience for me is just kind of getting to see where everybody kind of was at the beginning of this. Like Duke, he just had an idea. So he just literally threw an idea out there, like throwing shit on the wall, right? And you hope it sticks. And that's kind of what he did. And then when he got selected, he was like, well, shit, now I actually got to write this story. And then the same, like Minaj, he kind of already, like, he didn't quite have the story down until, after when he was selected. So it's been really cool to hear all these different experiences from my behalf, and hopefully to the listeners or the viewers' behalf, who are getting to hear about this and like everybody's individual experience, because Chris and Chris are two great dudes.
Yeah.
And when they refer to themselves as two aging punk rockers, it can't be, it's 100% the truth. That's who they are. And they like, I'll thank them for this opportunity to get to talk to all of you. They put this together. You were like my last addition into this. And I was like, when they're like, hey, do you think you can squeeze one more in? I'm all like, I got this date here. He's like, awesome. So
yeah, that's great.
I was happy to be able to squeeze you and Matt in. I know Matt unfortunately had some stuff come up with the family that he had to attend to, I believe. So shout out to him. Can't wait to see his art on the story. I mean, I've seen some test pages on Instagram and like everybody else, but I'm really excited to see everything come together because I do love, like I said, American Horror Story, Coven was one of my favorite series from there. And this kind of just feels like it could fit right in as a backstory to one of the witches and part of the Coven. So, but for you, what was it like creating alongside other horror creators? Like, I don't know how much interaction y'all really had together outside of the Teams call that y'all got at the very beginning of this. So,
well, you said it best. You have two men together. You tell a lot of bad jokes. Try like 8 or 9 men all in one chat room. Yeah, that was a lot of people were making some great. They were very encouraging. Everybody was great. Everybody was so passionate and so on board and so excited. And I think that's such a great thing about indie comic collaborations is because that's real. Like that was why Image got started, because a bunch of people just wanted to tell stories and get together. And working with these guys too definitely helped me out a lot as well. I'm hoping to see more of their work for sure. It's been an absolute privilege working alongside them. And their stories are so creative as well. And I think as for horrors, especially, I think we were all just really very happy about this opportunity, because I think anthologies are such a great tool for comic creators, regardless of experience, whether it's your first one or your 10th one, because you meet, like, a lot of my partners that I'm working on right now artistically, I met through anthologies, and they're all amazing people. And same with these guys, because when you're working with anthology, not only do you get more connections, but you're able to hone your craft more, you're able to build up more of a network. And I guess like my advice for young comic creators is to try and work on an anthology with other people. Try to write smaller stuff.
That's solid advice right there.
Yeah, it's tough because there's not a ton of things around on Facebook, unfortunately. Like that's where I go on a lot of times to look for these opportunities. I was actually told about this from a friend, but they also posted it on Facebook, and I also saw more stuff on Instagram. But I think more people just need to make more anthologies, and get more people together and to make a Kickstarter.
Please.
Yeah, I want to work with more
I
people.
always say an anthology will get you the most bang for your buck. And I will never stop not saying that, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I will always say that is what I'm meaning to say. I will
Absolutely.
always enjoy Hello Darkness from Boom Studios. I absolutely love that series because it's some of the best writers in comics just writing horror. It's good stuff. Oh, and by the way, it was started by R.L. Stine. One of the best to ever do it.
Yeah.
So, and the fact that he's where he's at in life, still writing horror stories is phenomenal. This dude don't have to do that, but he does it because he loves it. Like Stephen King, he still does it because he loves to do it. So
exactly. And
even
he's also
Dean
made
Koontz at this point, I think he's up there. Because shit, I remember reading Odd Thomas when I was a young teenager. So off topic, I apologize.
No, please.
Anthologies get me hyped up, okay? I love a good anthology, and that's why when I was presented this idea, I was like, yep, say no more. I'll do it.
Exactly.
And I wish I got to do this more often. Because it's not often you get to talk to the whole team of creators behind the anthology. Normally you get to talk to the person whose idea the anthology was, which is great. But this right here has been like an absolutely amazing experience for me and hopefully for everybody involved, getting to come on and tell their story about their creation that they put on for AHA. So,
yeah.
But
absolutely.
So to you, how does the Hangwoman fit into the overall tone of AHA, in your opinion?
I mean, I'm not either of the two amazing Chris's, so they truly know the answer. But to me, I think
those two guys got a big ego.
Yeah.
Don't feed that ego anymore.
Yeah. Well, it's one of the that's why I'm on AHA. I've just been flattering them to no end. No.
Hey, I've been doing the same thing. I've been blowing a lot of smoke up their ass.
Well, I think that's what brings some creators together. We're all collectively boosting each other's egos, and that's great. For me,
I love
think
it. It's great stuff.
Thank you. For me, I think what makes the Hangwoman fit well into AHA is because what I really love about this anthology is that there's a different theme for every story. There's one that's more about Indian horror. There's another that's more fantasy horror. Like there's monsters, there's cannibals. There's so many stuff, and everything is different, and everything fits in. And I think a lot of the stories too also focus on such rich imagery and ideas, in their stories. Because not only is every one of them different, but every one of them is it's uniquely fresh, but also the art styles also really shine together. I think with a lot of how they bring a lot of the stuff to life, it's very how do I explain this? It's like not only is it dynamic, but a lot of what you see, it's very grandiose, like so much of how they the writers and artists drew their works. It feels so larger than life. It's so eerie too. And I think that works well because.
No, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, you go ahead. Sorry about that.
No. Please go.
All right. Well, I think with the Hangwoman too. Aw, it's cute kitty. But I think with sorry, that's an adorable cat. I think with the Hangwoman, it fits in well because again, it's a different genre, but also, I think what a lot of AHA stands for is telling stories that you don't typically see in other media, in other comics. Like we don't usually see horror stories about like Indian body horror or
It's true.
or
You know?
a dark or I mean there have been some horror that's out there, I'm sure, but we don't usually see that in comics, and we don't usually see cannibal horror or fantasy horror in comics. I mean, sure we do, but not like this. You know, not. And I think that's one of the reasons why The Crow, why we brought that up, it was so impactful in the indie scene, because for a while no one would publish it because it was just too raw and too gritty with its emotions. But that's where indie comics shines. There are no restrictions. Creators can tell the stories they want, and we're rewarded for it by seeing some truly compelling art and narrations. So that's why I think the Hangwoman fits in, because we're all unique creators and we're all coming together. Yeah.
No, that's a freaking amazing answer. I love that. And that's again like why I love anthologies so much, is because you could take all these different people from different walks of life, stick them together, and have nothing to do with each other, but make a really great comic book. And that's another good thing about the indie comics, is you have no limitations to what you can do. It's only limited by what you are willing to, or how far you're willing to go to bring the shock or the horror to the next level. And I appreciated the fact that Chris just said, there's no handcuffs on you. Do what you want to do. Tell the stories you want to tell. And I'm so happy that everybody just absolutely positively did that.
Definitely.
So you've obviously read other anthology series. So what makes Aha so special compared to others?
That's I think it also kind of goes back to a lot of our influences, which you know, Tales from the Crypt, Eek Comics, you know, all those as Chris would put it, classic anthology tales of yesteryear. You know, and
EC Comics is one of my favorite. I'm not gonna lie.
Definitely, so many great horror stories that came from there, and what made them stand out was because of the fact that they were so you know, at the time at least, visceral and frightening, you know, because comics didn't really have the same kind of restrictions back then that other mediums did, until, of course, the Comics Code came in and basically censored that. But we're seeing, I think, a greater rise in horror comics that's emerging over the years more and more since that code died down. Like, I can think of several. I think there was a comic about Ed Gein recently that was really interesting, serial killer. There was I think one, I forget this one. It's not Black Mirror, but it's another comic that's I think dealt with a lot of identity. I can try and look up the title for you if you want, but
no, you're good. I'm pretty sure I know which one you're talking about. I know for me, did you watch Smile?
I have not, but I've heard of it, and I've seen a lot of the posters.
So Smile 2, to me, in my opinion, better than Smile 1. But there's actually a comic book out right now. I think they released issue 2 or 3 this week. But it picks up where the second one leaves off. And it is very... It keeps that tradition going in a new format. And they can do a little bit more than what you can put on the silver screen. So I've absolutely been enjoying it. And like I said, I enjoyed the second movie better than the first movie. And I think it was a lot had to do with the actress, the main actress in the second movie. She did that role so well. Like, she was very visceral in how her emotions and her portrayal of that character. So, but yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. But also, like with this horror anthology, I mentioned those other comics because so many horror comics, even though they're so great and they are really impacting people, you know, again, Lock and Key is another example. I can go on. Still scary.
Love it.
Yeah. I mean, that's why you and I we're getting along, because we have great taste in comics, right?
I even enjoyed the TV series. I thought it was absolutely amazing as well.
Definitely, yeah. Yeah, so many great horrors. But the problem is, well, it's not a problem, but it's more like because of the fact that they're, you know, being published by a bigger company, while they're still great, as with it comes with all publishing works in any company, it's never fully your own. You know, it's always like, even like they always take a portion of the price. They're always got some editor or somebody telling you maybe you should do this. You're getting rejections on your work, even if it's even if work is good, it just doesn't fit. That's totally okay. But what makes AHA special is that we have all these unburdened creators coming together, and we're throwing in stories that reflects the time of when anthologies were free to be alive with fear and terror, with and you know, without any restrictions, and without people saying no, you have to do this or you have to do that. And of course, all the creators are incredibly sensible, hardworking people. You mentioned how much research they did on their stories, so it's not like you're going to be reading a pile of not
they're really
stuff.
not. You're honestly, I think there's 8 stories, and like the work has been done. It really has. And everybody I've talked to has been so passionate, not just about their own work, but about everybody's work in the comic book as a whole. And I love to see that. And that's what makes indie comics so special, is the passion is there, and it's infectious, and it carries on. And that's why I've been so excited every time I've done one of these, is because everybody who's come on has had a very different experience, but the same experience, which I know that sounds weird, but everybody's is different, but yet the same, because everybody's working for that one big goal. And when it finally funded, I was super excited, just like all of you were, which is funny. You know, I'm pretty sure people are like, "What? Why are you excited?" Well, I didn't have a story in this. I didn't have a dog in the fight, but I had 8 creators. Well, technically 16 creators, 17 creators who were relying on me to push their story forward and to carry these stories forward for them through my medium. So I'm like, yeah, I kind of do have a dog in the fight, because I backed it too, and I wanted it to succeed, damn it.
Exactly. Like, the amount of people who have come forward to support our anthology is truly heartwarming, because it shows how much people care about helping other artists and creators, and of course getting the kind of stories they want too. You know, what makes AHA special is that, you know, really it's a revolution, you know, like all indie comics are. You know, it's horror stories that matter to us, that matter to other people, told not for some arbitrary algorithm that publishers are trying to hit, but because they're what we think are important. And of course, they're what the people who've supported us, who are aware of the work that we're doing, think is important too. And I think, especially with horror, which delves so deeply into you know, fears that are both common and unique and individual at the same time,
or that you may not have yet.
Exactly.
But you're gonna fear it soon.
Horror education. Yeah. You know, you know, we will educate you on things that you should be afraid of. You know, we will not rest until we have terrified the world.
Exactly. And I like it. And I really hope the fellas come back with a round 2, a volume 2 of this, either with some of the same people or a new batch of creators, so I can do this all over again. And that's me being selfish a little bit. I do apologize.
No, of course not. It's not selfish at all. I if that's true, then I'm selfish, because I want to get back to working with these people as well. I hope that they continue to invite new creators, but at the same time, I also hope that they don't discard the people that they were working with as well, just to bring in the new batch. Because I had an anthology.
I really couldn't see them doing that.
Yeah, that's fair.
They're solid dudes.
Oh yeah, for sure, absolutely, I agree. I was just bringing up my own experience where I worked for another anthology, which also was very good, and tons of amazing, incredible people that I've worked with. But they also wanted to focus more on the new people rather than the people that were previously there, which is fine. You know, that's their prerogative. That's what they think is best, and I'm glad they're giving so many other new creators a shot. But I think we should be helping out each other. And if that means making more stories, like, you know, like maybe 2 issues on the side, why not take advantage of that? Take advantage of the people you have on board, right? Yeah, I think that's...
100%. Especially if they have stuff ready to go already. Like, hey, do you got something ready to go? Let's make it happen. But let's let everybody know, what else are you working on at this time that you may want to talk about or can talk about?
What aren't I working on? That's the real question.
I know. I mean, I've seen your resume. You are a very busy person.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you. Well, I'm working on some other comics. Bigger projects with some other artists. I don't know if I should reveal their names because they're probably private people. But if things do get picked up and we do go forward, I'll be absolutely sure to let you know.
Hey, you gotta come back and talk about it.
Thank you. Yes. I'm trying to work on some short stories on the side as well, just to try and get those going. I'm always looking for more opportunities with comic anthologies or really anything I can write for sure. I'm working on 2 video games currently, 2 indie video games that I'm quite proud of. I think it's going well. I can't necessarily guarantee what's going to happen with those. Maybe they'll take off, maybe they won't. I certainly hope they do, but I'm very confident in the efforts and skills of the people that we have on board in those projects, is what I'm going to say.
Hold on right there. For those who may be wondering, she also composes music. So
yeah, that's on the side as well. But I'm also working on some theater plays. Well, not like more writing scripts, more so, but I like to help composers out as well. Usually with me, it's like when on the productions I'm working on with there's a couple of musicals that I'm doing in the works. Again, can't say for sure how those are going to go. I really hope they do well. But for me, it's like I'm working with some composers, and they're mainly doing that. But every now and then, I give my own thoughts on how we can improve the music and make that sound. So that's really cool too.
That's good stuff.
Thank you. Yeah, the point is I'm just trying to do what I love and to hopefully find greater success in this. And I'm incredibly grateful to the amazing United States Department of Nerds and AHA for helping me further get there. Yeah.
Oh, 100%. Definitely. So do you think we'll see more of the Hangwoman in this world?
Ooh, I hope so. Maybe. I think that would be actually, if you want, people are demanding a sequel, by all means, we can totally make that happen.
I'm just going to throw something out there. What would be really cool is, so you've had the Puritan scale, right? Where, your ghost has come back. Maybe you revisit it in another time piece. The same characters, just a different period of time. The same names, the same everything, just different periods of time. To me, in my head, I think that would be a really cool thing to do.
Yeah, that'd be cool. So how do you mean? Do you mean like we bring back like the witch as?
So you have Elizabeth Hill.
Yes.
You have Elizabeth Hill. She's a healer, just in a different time era. Let's say the Old West.
Nice.
And then you have the woodsman who maybe isn't a woodsman per se in that era, but maybe a cattle herder or something like that. Something that would fit the period, right? And then she gets accused of like being a witch or what have you. And the story kind of repeats just in different periods of time. Quantum leap it, so to speak.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
Action. But I don't know. That idea just popped in my head, and I just thought that would be really cool, and I would share that with you. You can run with that if you want to.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if Chris, if you guys are watching this, if we're making a another horror anthology,
Volume 2,
bring me back. I will make more Hangwomen. Yeah, we will hang around with all the Hangwomen. Yeah.
I like it. Let's do it. But let everybody know where they can find your work.
Where they can find my work. There's my website. www.jasminecrawshaw.com. That's where I post all my released projects as well as my creative resumes. You can also find me on my socials on Instagram, Facebook, Blue Sky, and Threads. I do not currently have a TikTok yet, but I'm working on making that happen. Where you'll find more announcements and releases about my projects coming soon. And of course, I'm if I think that's about it, really. My website and my socials. But if you want to work with me personally, if you have a project that you would like me to write or even compose and you wish to discuss it, you're more than welcome to send a chat through my socials, and I'll see if I can get back to you on that. That's really about it. But thank you for the shout out. Would you like me to post the links in the chat, or do you already have? I think you already have them with you. Is that true?
I think I have your Instagram, and actually no, I've already got them all. I just don't have them saved, but I follow you across the board, so I can pull them, so you don't have to do that. And,
okay, great.
Yeah, and as I start posting the reels from this interview, I'll tag you in all that stuff anyway. And it will all be down in the description of this video when it goes live. Saturday, I believe, Saturday afternoon. Or Sunday, maybe exciting. Sunday. Yeah,
absolutely, yeah.
So, but with that, I want to say, Jasmine, thank you so much for coming on tonight, sharing the Hangwoman with the council. But with that, it's time to close this out the proper way. So some stories fade, but others linger. They sit with you, they follow you, they whisper in the quiet moments when the world goes still. The Hangwoman is one of those stories, a reminder that justice delayed doesn't always stay buried. And with that, this has been the USDN Podcast, where indie comics come to life. Ladies and gentlemen, the Council of Nerds is now adjourned. Y'all be safe out there.
Thank you.
It's a trap!